You let me know when we go.
No, we're on.
Oh.
I'm like, I was waiting for you because I don't have YouTube open. So.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, I'm like, you got to tell me. So here we are. This is wild. Welcome everybody. We are doing something very, very different for Mandi and myself today. Maybe we're, I don't know, bored.
No, we want people to see, we're alive. We are blessed and highly favored today and every other day. So we wanted to see everybody. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, agreed. And so for the first time in our history of 2 years of doing the Dice Tower podcast, we're going to be recording live right now with you.
Right.
So for everybody watching right now on YouTube, first of all, thank you for joining us. We're really focused on recording the podcast. And so you're just kind of going to see behind the scenes as we're recording. But what we have to do is we record a segment and then we pause and we export files. And so certainly if you have questions for us, we're happy to chat in between the segments, but we're going to try to remember that we're creating a podcast that's an audio only medium and really focus on that. You're also going to see pauses in between the cuts of our different segments. We have to clap to help align the soundtrack and all that other stuff. So all that messiness, it's right here.
Yes.
If that's not your jam, that's cool,
right.
But we want to give you a warning.
And if anybody's on screen watching me and I'm looking off to the side, I'm doing the tech part, so I have probably about 7 or 8 screens open, so we can have this lovely stream push through a couple of places. So I am here with you. I just have to manage multiple things. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not looking off talking. I am managing something.
Or playing video games or something on the side.
We'll talk about that later.
All right, so that's your warning. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's just go into it. We'll see how it goes. So, all right, Mandi, let's go ahead and hit record.
All right, hold on.
And do an audio check here.
Pull it up, and I am
on
recording.
Your Audacity, please. My audio's all wonky. Testing. All righty.
All right, so if you're listening.
You recording?
We're going to clap, so make sure you've turned your volume down a little bit.
All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, here we go. The Dice Tower, episode 652, Isolation, Schmisolation. In today's show, we talk about a few games that we've been playing, the new Charterstone app, and we're going to talk a little bit about how these odd times can be helped with games. I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandi Hutchinson.
And Mandi, it's so nice to see you back safe and sound from AirCon. I have to admit, with all the news going around, I got a little bit worried.
I was also worried because I work for the federal government, so we get some of these notifications just before it hits, and they're like, be cautious and be careful, and we might be restricting some travel, and I'm like, okay, I need to know this now. So yeah, I was a little nervous. I mean, was careful when I went, came back, seemed to be okay for the most part. So yeah, I was a nervous Nelly. Yes.
A nervous Nelly, really? Alrighty. Well, I it's a wild thing. I've seen some videos of just completely empty airports, and that's pretty wild to see. But what was your highlight of AirCon for you?
Yes, so I was at AirCon, and it was a lot of fun. It was a smaller convention, but still, it just made you feel comfortable, welcome. I mean, you're always welcome at conventions, but because of the smaller atmosphere, it was really nice. I actually got to play games. That never happens when I go to a convention. So, and games that were new to me, I played a lot of stuff from Oink. I think they love me now because I think I showed 4 or 5 games from Oink Games, and just got to know a lot of people in the industry that I didn't know that are on that side of the world, in addition to people that were attending. And everybody, and I'm not kidding when I say everybody, was absolutely pleasant. I visited the little crêperie that was outside because I could say une bonne opportunité pour moi de pratiquer mon français. So it was great. I got to chat in French with her, and it was lovely. So, I know my manager would be proud.
I am so glad you had a good time. It looked and sounded amazing, and my envy that I didn't get to go is deep and endless.
I almost forgot. So they sent me back with some stuff for you. I had to really pack this
Ooh.
well and shove it in my little knapsack or backpack, whatever you want to call
Knapsack.
it. And it's a little tea set. So they gave us a little goodie bag from Aircon. So my t-shirt I ended up having to give to someone. So Emma, if you're listening, because she ended up having a spill, so I said, you know what, here, you take my shirt. It looks great on you. Albeit a little big, but looks good. And so I have your shirt, and they sent us
nice.
a little tea set, like a little teacup with 2 little plates. So I forgot to mention that. Oh, there's also some
That's so British. I love it.
but and that's right up my alley. I'm a tea drinker. But they also sent us these little cakes that you don't put in the No, honestly, I can't send it to you.
Wait a minute. Why is this the first I'm hearing about cakes?
Because they're gonna expire soon, and by the time I send it to you, it's expired. And listen, I'm on Lent right now, so for all of you who don't know, for Lent, I gave up sweets, so it's not like I can even eat it. Well, except for today. Today's a day of rest, so I could technically have a little nibble. Sorry.
Interesting. I think this is going to be a post-show discussion between you and I, Mandy.
I forgot.
Oh my gosh, cake. Wow, that is delightful. And now I'm even more jealous. So thanks for that. My goodness. Well, you got a lot of games played, obviously, Aircon. And as we all know, we're in really an unprecedented kind of thing in modern times right now, which makes game playing puts a little twist on getting games played. But personally, I know I have a pretty big backlog of games that I have played and want to talk about. So hopefully we can go into that, talk about some games played, and see what happens from there.
Yeah, let's get to it.
All right.
All right, so we're going to stop now and just do a little savey save.
Save project as.
So everyone's getting to see the behind the...
I know, it's like so boring.
I know. It's okay. I don't mind. What are we, 652?
Yes, I think that's what I said.
Oh, that's right, because that's what I wrote on the poster.
Why not? I can't find my hard drive. Is this a problem? This PC, documents.
Okay.
Wait, no.
Well, export. Here we
there
go.
It is.
MP3,
podcast.
Whoop, whoop. Oh, looks like Mandy didn't make a folder. My bad.
652.
All right, let me just go back here.
Gator Dave's on the chat saying that they need quarantine cake, and I'm like, Mandy, what the heck is up with this cake? I want to see a picture of it.
It is delightful.
I find it funny that you've been back for like a week or over a week, and you and I have talked almost every day this week.
Okay.
And this is the first time the cake is coming up.
Okay.
I find that suspicious.
Whoa, low. Okay, I just came home, stuck it in the cupboard, forgot about it, and then I had a day of rest. I'm like, I feel like I could have a little nibble on something.
You forgot about it.
And it looks like Napolitan
you disgust me.
A little bit. And it has like an almond. Oh, what do you call that stuff on cakes? That's it's not an icing. Well, it's type, but it's hard. But
like marzipan or fondant.
Fondant. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it. Wow.
How convenient. Yeah. That's really cute, though. That was really nice.
All right.
I'm starting my new audio file here.
Okay. All right. Let me know when we're good to go.
I'm recording. Ready?
I'm recording. Okay.
3, 2, 1.
All right, games played. Well, I had to trim the list down a little bit because, well, I'm not as lucky as most people, and I don't actually have people to play games with. So I'm relying on some of the games I had played at Aircon or previous to that. So my apologies, we're going to do 2 games instead of 3 like we normally do. It's going to be like that probably going forward until this gets sorted, but we're looking at other options to playing games. So just to throw that out there in case you are wondering. So, first game I'm going to talk about is Cooper Island. So, Cooper Island is designed by Andreas Odendahl, and the artist is Javier Gonzalez Cava, and it is published by Frosted Games, I believe, in Europe, and Capstone Games here in North America. It's for 2 to 4 players, and it plays in about 60 to 120 minutes. The price point on this, I couldn't find the American pricing online, so just for those who are new to the podcast, I take the pricing from Board Game Bliss, which is a Canadian website, but they ship internationally, or at least to the United States, and Cool Stuff Inc. for the American pricing. So I came up with a solid 62 Canadian, so I believe it's pretty close to that US. This is a tile placement and worker placement game. So, for those who haven't heard of Cooper Island, it's you're trying to explore a part of the island by placing landscape tiles. These landscape tiles are going to give you resources, and you're going to be able to put up buildings, and they'll also give you some special abilities. There are barriers on the island that you have to remove in order to place statues and kind of build up a little further. You also have a ship on your board, and this is going to move around the board, and this is kind of tracking your points, but it also gives you bonuses. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Yeah, so basically, to end the game, it's over a certain amount of rounds, and then we calculate the points. And the points are a little different because it's actually a ship that goes around, and there's no, like, point track. So there is kind of a way to do it, but the ships where they land is where your points are going to be. So, let's see. I'm going to just shrink the screen down so I can actually see what I'm doing. So I've actually pulled parts out. So people who are listening, you will not be able to see, but I will kind of talk about them in a bit more detail so you can understand what I'm talking, how it's being described. So in the game, what happens? There are a lot of things. So just for those who have not played this game, this is a heavy teach. So if you're familiar with heavier games like Vital Lacerda games, it's a lot. And it's not a game that you can teach as you go. You have to give a lot of rules out at the beginning, which is not always my favorite way to teach a game, but it's required here. So when the game starts, we have our own, our individual player boards, and they're going to be attached in a certain configuration. So for those watching, you can see the player board. So this gives you an idea of what we're looking at. And actually, if I turn it this way, that might be better for you. And this is where, so on around this island, there are tiles that we're going to place, which are going to give us benefits. There's a terrain and then a benefit on the tile. And then at the top of the player board, you'll see some, it's giving you a rundown of how you can place tiles on your board. So for those listening, there's a terrain in the middle of the board where you are going to place tiles. And remember, placing tiles have to be adjacent. We'll talk about that. Okay, and then on the other part of the board, you're going to see a symbol. It might be upside down here, where it shows books. And books are a way of tracking your points, but they also give you bonuses as well. So when you pass this juncture, it's going to give you a book. Okay, so that's...
If you pass that juncture.
If you pass that juncture. Yeah, we're going to talk about that because this is a low-scoring game for those who are new to this. So that's your board, and depending on how many players are playing, it will be a different configuration for that. Okay, so they're all kind of attached. Then you have this other board here. And this is, players have this board. So for those listening, you'll have on the side here an area where you're going to put ships. And each area that you put ships, it'll give you, you have to pay a certain amount, but it also gives you points. And they call them movement points versus an actual point. We also have places on the map to store. So it's at the top of the board to store your resources. You'll notice you don't have a lot of room. And guess what? There are going to be some things that are going to cover up on this. So you actually have that many. You only have about 5 spaces versus the 7 that it's depicting. We are actually going to put statues in the middle of the board here. So we have 3 places that we can put statues, but you have to acquire those off the board. We have a track. I can't remember the technical term. It's a Voyager track. I might be wrong on that. But this is great because it allows you to stack tiles differently. So we're going to talk about that as well. Down here is where resources go when they have no home. And if there are certain effects where it goes down into this bottom part of your mat and you have to use it or lose it sort of situation. There's also a side part here. And this is kind of telling you the things that are going to happen when we have our income and resolving that end phase. I think I'm doing that right. It's hard to see where I am. So hopefully that is the right way for everyone to see. I think I've covered it all. And then it kind of has little indicators to tell you how you can place tiles and where you can place tiles. And it does give you an indication when rounds are coming, like this is income in the top left corner of the board and has a little hand, saying, give me money. Follow me so far? I know this is a lot. Then...
Yeah, I've played once and it's a lot.
I've played several times. I've taught this game quite a few times and it's gone over really well. It's hard listening to it, but people who are watching will have a better idea. I actually have to tell you about all of these bits. Otherwise, what I'm going to say after that will make absolutely no sense to you. So this is the board where we're going to be taking our actions. And, I'm not going to go into what every action does, but there are placing buildings, getting you to pull tiles out of the bag. And you'll notice there are round spots on the board and square spots. So we have 2 different size workers, circle and square. And basically the square workers are better. but they're harder to get because you have to give up a round worker to get that square one. But you'll notice on this board it's a little plus because it gives you double kind of bonuses. So this is the board that's in the middle, and this is going to, this is where all the action is going to happen. So placing buildings, placing tiles, pulling tiles, getting boats, because remember, boats are going to give you bonuses, that sort of thing. Is that a lot? Are you following, Suze? I know you've played it before.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. It's a lot, though.
All right. I'm not going to pull everything out, but just to give you a quick idea. The tiles that I was talking about before, these are terrain tiles. So these are tiles that are double-sided, and each terrain produces a different type of good. Okay, these are important because these are going to get placed on this board. So you got to find out, where the tile is. You have to place them adjacent. So they're going to go
on your own personal island, right?
Right, on your personal island. And they can stack, keeping in mind they have to be of the same, I was going to say of the same persuasion, of the same terrain. Except for, is it on this tile? This one. This tile, I think it's like a city tile if I'm not mistaken. This can actually stop, basically you can put it on top of a grass, for example, but then you can no longer build grass anymore. It becomes this building which produces silk, for example. So these are things you want to do. You want to stack them because stacking them on your board gives you that much of a resource. So if I had this here and it was stacked 4 high, that means a cube that's on here is worth 4. Does that make sense? So then I would have 4 silk available to me. So when you're pulling them off to pay for things, keep in mind, it may only cost 2, but guess what? If you pulled it off of here, you're using that
There's
entire
no
4.
change.
No change for you. All right. Then we've got our cubes. So these are the resource cubes, and you'll notice you've got gold, you've got the silk is purple, stone is gray, you've got the wood is the brown, and then you have food is pink. So they're little cubes for those listening. Okay. And I think I've covered the basic, and then you've got your money tokens, which are I just have the regular version. I don't know if there's a crazy deluxe version, so mine are just cardboard money. And then you've got all your player pieces, which is a mishmash of buildings and starter tiles, like the one I was showing you earlier. Also, your boats. Okay, did you take that all in? I'm so sorry, but I had to talk about it. So in the game, we set up the board like I talked about. We lay out our pieces, our board. We get our starting tiles. I believe we have 6 of them. We are going to have an opportunity to place that out on the board. Our starting tiles are a little bit different. They have a bonus, which, if I can find one quickly here. So they have a bonus on the other side. So if you notice, they're slightly different than the other tiles that I showed you. So they have a terrain, and then on the other side, it's like a water, and it has a bonus. So this one is basically, you get to pull a tile out of the bag. So this is something that has to be placed, for those who are listening, on the edge of your island. So when you're placing them, they have to be placed edgewise. So you can't basically place one here and then place another, cover them, because this is where your boat is going to be moving around the board. And guess what? You can move onto other people's island. So, which is great, because then you can take advantage of these bonuses when you get there. So quickly, the game is kind of tracked with some cargo ship cards, and they're going to be put out. And on the cargo ship card, you can take these off because they allow you to get special actions on this board, which are down here. Okay, so on the board, there are some special actions. We have these crates, they're called, that you can get off of these cards and place them on top of a special action on the board, and it will give you that action, but then it costs you to remove it. Okay, and there's our 5 of these cards because it denotes the 5 rounds. There's a little guy that goes on them and moves depending on the round, but he gives you a discount if you get the card on that round that he's on. Okay, so basically in the game, you're going to take a turn with the action board that I told you about, and it's based on how many workers you have. So we go around till everyone takes that, and you also have the option of placing on a Royal Order card. And a Royal Order card is like an objective card. And once someone's placed their token on it, that's it. Nobody else can place on after that. So you really have to be careful. And this could be something like, having 3, 4, or 5 buildings will give you X amount of points at the end of the game. Actions I think I talked about you can do is placing the buildings, getting statues, placing tiles, getting resources. Obviously, you want to do these things in order to build houses and statues. You have to pay for all of those things using resources. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything here. So the game starts off with an income phase, and that allows you to put one of the player islets that I was telling you about, these, on the board. Okay. And in addition, then you get to do an income action as well. So, sorry, other actions, so you can put out another tile. This is why you need to have the regular tiles with you, or you just don't get to put it out.
Yeah, I got bit by that a few times.
Yes, it is really important to use that action of drawing, the regular tiles versus your player tiles, okay? Because these ones, you only get 6. Okay, so one of them's not going to be used. And then these ones you can draw throughout the game. You want to build up those stacks on your board. And so make sure you always have them, because you do have an opportunity to put one out in that phase. Then we have our worker phase, where we take our actions as discussed. And then we do the cleanup phase, where you're going to, did I forget to mention? You have to feed your workers.
Yeah.
So making sure you have food, whether it be in your storage area on your board or on your actual island board, you can use those as well. Make sure you have the food. Otherwise, you're going to get an anchor. What does an anchor do, you say? It's negative points, and that goes under your ship. And that ship is not moving until you remove it. It literally anchors your ship. So not great. Then you're going to gain any statue bonuses. So if you build statues on the board, you'll get those bonuses. Passage bonuses, return your workers. We're going to clear the marketplace. So marketplace is that bottom part of your board where I was saying, oops, didn't use it, you lose it. And then you move the harbor master, which is on those cards I was telling you about, to the next cargo ship. That is, in essence, the game. And then the game ends after the 5 rounds. And then you calculate your score based on books that you've received. And, I think resources are worth a bit as well, money and that sort of thing, as well as those objective cards that I was telling you about. Player with the most points wins. And let me start off by telling you, I think my highest score to date in this game is 23. So those of you,
I'm gonna look up my score, because it was not good.
It was, so I'm sorry if that was a lengthy explanation. I tried to get in as much as I possibly could there, but without being overwhelming. It's a lot. It's a lot of rules, and I'm very happy that I had a friend that was able to teach it to me the first time, and then I was able to play it a bit more. It is quite rules heavy. Playing it, I thought, I'm just going to pull up my script here while we're talking. And yes, I have a script. I make notes. I have a very bad memory. So to finish off, I wrote this. I love it. Laave it. I really liked it. It was like, oh, my brain hurts. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, this is bad. No. I was so stressed out about it. But it is a low scoring game. So 23, in my opinion, is fantastic. If you got more than 23, good for you, because it is hard. Points are hard to move your little boat, because that's what it is, right? It's moving your boat forward. Those are the points you're trying to get. I enjoyed the puzzle of trying to figure it out, where you can place tiles that effectively work out for you. Because remember, you have to place them adjacent, and sometimes that's not always great. So, and then don't let tiles run out. Like that income phase where you get to place 2 tiles. Why would you not take advantage of that? But it does happen where you're like, oops, forgot to pull a tile. So you end up losing that opportunity. So you have to find that balance. The balance of workers is also difficult. Oh my goodness. Because you're like, do I get more workers, which are the little circle workers? Or do I get better workers, which are the square workers, right? And keep in mind, only the circle workers are going to be able to go to those objective cards. So and they leave, like they go to the objective card. So you have to make that determination. I personally prefer less workers that are better. Now, keep in mind, the more workers you come out, the more you have to feed them. So that's something you also have to balance as well. Sorry, I've got a lot to say about this game. I'm not a planner, but I was still able to try a little bit of everything, and it still worked out. Some people may find it frustrating that you have to plan in this game, because it's not like you can destroy tiles, right? There are ways to build them up, that's those Voyager kind of points where you can kind of slip tiles in there to make it higher, as an anytime action. And I apologize, I forgot to mention that there are anytime actions in the game that you can take, which will help you with things like that. So for me, I didn't mind, but if you are not a big planner and it's something that is stressful for you, you may find that this game is a little frustrating on that. There are some things that you have to dedicate, time and resources, like building. There's a specific building that you have to spend. Like, it literally takes you almost all game to get the resources to put this thing out. I don't recommend that strategy, P.S. If you don't get this building out within the first 1 or 2 rounds, leave it alone. Let it go. It wasn't for you. Bye-bye. I wasted a whole game doing it, and I suffered because of it. If you like heavier games like Vital Lacerda, weight-wise, this is about that. I think it's over a 4 online, 4.17 on BGG. I personally thought the game itself wasn't too bad. It was just very rules heavy up front, and then it got a bit easier, but the brain burn was there, if that makes any sense. And the iconography does take some getting used to, but you do get used to it after a few rounds. I mean, at least I did, and I rely extremely heavily on iconography. So I hope that I would convey that as well as I could. If anybody has any other questions, we'll maybe take a look at them at the end that we can answer. But I'm going to stop there. So if you hadn't figured out, I really like this game. Now, Suzanne has played this game. What are your thoughts, Suzanne?
Well, I've only played it once. So I got to play a learner game at Dice Tower West, and really glad I got to because I've been wanting to play it. And there were so many things about the game that appealed to me on paper. And then I got into the game, and it is brutal. I think
Yeah, it's rough.
I think you conveyed the complexity really well, but the thing that bit me. So my score, granted in my first game, but my score was 6.
Oh dear.
Yeah, thanks, sister.
No
Thanks.
problem.
But and the winning score in that game was like in the teens. But this is a brutal, unforgiving game.
Absolutely.
And without a doubt, you will not perform your best in your first play. It's just not possible. There are so many moving pieces and so many ways that you have, like, actions interlock, and you have to prioritize, and you never have enough. It's super duper tight. And I did run into a situation where I made a mistake and played suboptimally, which happens.
Sure.
And then I made that mistake, and then I realized it was going to take me like 2 more rounds to correct or adjust around that. And that's something that I struggle with in games. So, for example, in Luna's one of the FL games I don't care for because it is just unforgiving.
Yes.
Just brutally unforgiving. If you make one mistake in Luna where that little character going around the islands will land, boom, you're done. You're done. And I felt that way in Cooper Island too. I made a mistake, and then I realized I had to do all these things to try to get back on track or find an alternate solution, an alternate way to play the game and score points. And I think a lot of that was newness. So things like that, but that was something I really struggled with. All that said, there were a lot of pieces to it that I really like. I really like 3-dimensional tile line games where you get to build up, not just out. I think that that's really, really fun. And it had a lot of the hallmarks of a game I'd really enjoy. It's just that first game, it was rough. So, but I look forward to trying it again.
Yeah, I mean, it's one I've taught it quite a few times, and I think I'm getting better as it progresses with the teach. But yeah, it hurt the brain, but in a good way.
I really wish you'd been there to teach, because we were doing a rule book learn on top of that, which I think having somebody experienced teaching us would have made the entry so much smoother, right? Because when you're learning out of a rule book, you just don't know how to prioritize information.
Right.
And how to a teacher will drop little nuggets to help you understand what elements you should be focusing on, what elements you should pay attention to that you may otherwise ignore. And we didn't have that. So
exactly.
Oh wow.
So there you go. Cooper Island. I love it. So anybody who wants to learn it if there's an upcoming convention that we can go to, I am happy to teach it.
Up for me, I wanted to talk about Time Stories, the Hadal project.
Ooh.
Now, I will say up front, this is spoiler free. I am not planning on spoiling anything in the game itself, but I am going to talk a little bit about the mechanisms of it, and may touch just slightly on a little bit of the story. So if that kind of thing, if you want a total out of the box surprise for Time Stories Hadal project, you're going to have to fast forward or mute me or pause me or whatever you want to do here, because I'm going to talk about it because I played it.
Okay.
And these are always really difficult games to discuss because spoilers stink for a lot of people, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So there you go. Time Stories, the Hadal project is the new Time Stories. So Time Stories had the White series, which was the original game, and then all these little expansions like the Marcy case and the Expedition and things like that. And then all of a sudden they announced, hey, we're going to end this storyline, but we're starting up this new storyline, the Blue series.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was like, what? Because I really, really enjoy time stories. It's provided some of the most interesting, engaging gaming experiences I've ever had, even though I think that some of the modules are more appealing to me than others.
Mm-hmm.
I have not played all the White series, but my good friends that I played the Hadal project with have, and so they kind of gave me a few tips on critical points that I may have missed to help us protect there. So Time Stories, the Hadal project, is designed by Manuel Rosé, Kevin Delp, and Melissa Delp, which I didn't realize, and I think that's super duper cool because I know them from
I was going to
Tantrum
say,
House.
wait, that's Tantrum House. Yeah.
Yeah,
It took me a minute.
right.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
The artist is Lookie, and it's published by Space Cowboys. The Hadal project's going to retail for $35 in the States.
Okay.
So let's talk about a few things that are different in Time Stories, the Blue series, so far from what I can tell. First of all, the way you manage time, you still have to manage time,
Sure.
but it's totally different. So the time track with the time die, gone. And I can't say I miss it. I wasn't sad to see it go.
You're not mad at it.
Time die. See you later. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. And the little tokens, if you've played Time Stories, there's a bunch of little tokens with a little colored grid on them, and there's pink ones and blue ones and green ones and that kind of thing that you can potentially collect during the game. And those are gone as well. There are tokens in this game, new tokens that you get. But that kind of system is not in this game. Okay. Now, to be clear, Hadal Project is standalone. You can buy the Hadal Project, never having played the white box. I think you can pick it up fairly well and learn it straight if you've never played a Time Stories, but you are in no way dependent on owning the white series to play the Hadal Project from a component's point of view. And so all those time units are gone. There is a way that you manage time, things like that. Story-wise, my understanding, because I have not played the last of the White series, but my understanding from my friends is that basically the Blue series picks up right where you left off in the White series.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, because I've only played one Time Stories. I think it was like the first one that came out. Are they different? Like, do they tie in? Are they different things? Like, I'm not...
There is a through line, and Understood. I don't think this is a spoiler, but there is a through line between the White series.
Understood. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
And so the Blue line picks up where the White story left off.
Okay.
Similarly, you are going to get a character in this one where you have a character, but and then you're sending that character out to have your vessels, which is very similar to how Time Stories worked, where you would basically embody a character in that time period and then do actions as that person. All of that is still in this one as well. And there's still randomness. The fighting die, the solution resolution dice are gone as well. Again, not sorry to have seen them gone. And I think it's a really good choice to get rid of that. There is still a randomization element, but they give you a different way to mitigate that. And I love that because you feel like you're making a choice. And when something breaks your way or breaks bad for you, at least you felt like it wasn't completely luck of a die roll. And that really works for me in this system. What I will say is, depending on what you're expecting from Time Stories, that the Blue Hadal project, it really felt like mostly like a choose your own adventure game. There were definitely gamification elements. There were definitely like kind of branching narrative and definitely choices that you could make, which was interesting because my friends had something where, and again, this is not a spoiler, this is a mechanism. You get kind of a personal goal that you can achieve. So it is a cooperative game, but you can get a benefit from a personal secret goal. And my two friends that I were playing with, they managed to achieve theirs. Mine never even got close. There was a whole narrative branch that we didn't touch on based on the choices we made. And my personal goal must have been down that branch, so we never even touched it. And you know what? I was okay with that because that was interesting to me. That said to me that our choices made a difference in how we experienced the game. We weren't being 100% railroaded. And that's a good thing to me. but it isn't really puzzly like an exit game or an unlock game where you're solving a lot of puzzles.
Right.
It's much more of a narrative style choose your own adventure game.
Right.
I will say in this one, the setting, they did a great job of incorporating some specific mechanisms that were catered to the setting that you're in, which I'm just double checking my memory. It's not super spoilery.
Spoilery.
I don't want to spoil anything. I don't think it is. Basically, this has an underwater element to it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a mechanism that really took advantage of that. And I really, really like that as well.
Okay.
And then there's character progression. So, like I said, here in this time stories, you have a character, and then that character is embodying the vessel, which feels a little different than what you were doing in the White series. But your character, you may choose to kind of do this like a campaign where you progress and level up your character. So at the end of the Hadal project, you will get the option to do some stuff based on what happened in the game to tweak your character. And then those attributes would carry over to theoretically the next game that we play. Or you can just ignore that and play each one as static, and they do some character tweaking automatically as you go along. So I thought that was really interesting. My group has decided that we liked this experience enough to go ahead and commit and do the character progression. So it'll be really fun to see how that continues on as we go.
Right.
So overall, the Hadal project, it's a thumbs up for me. You know, the Time Story series, there are a lot of games in there. Certainly, some people liked some better than others. There was some controversy around them. There's always a puzzle that was frustrating for people or what have you. And one of the things that we were discussing as we were playing this is, what does the blue line do? Does it change it up? Does it address it? Does it find a good balance between what we enjoyed versus freshening it up for us to want to commit? And the answer was yes. The changes in the system, the way they tweaked the randomization, the way that you manage time, the way that the characters were developing, the storyline, the setting, all this other stuff, it was interesting. It was compelling. And it was fun. So for us, for me, Time Stories Hadal Project, I really enjoyed it. You can play it if you haven't played the previous Time Stories. If you had, there are tie-ins from a narrative point of view that you may find interesting. And I recommend it. I had a good time with it. And I look forward to the next one. That's Time Stories, the Hadal Project.
Yeah, so I find these types of games are hard to play for me in my groups. Not because they're bad. It's one of those games like, you want to kind of consistently play. I'm assuming with the same people, if you can. I don't know. Is that I'm looking in here and people are saying that, and for those listening, that we have a chat going on. And it's a question that actually I'm concerned about, consistency of tone between the Time Stories, because I know the first one I played sounds very different from what's coming out now. So have you been finding that there's been inconsistencies?
Well, I don't think we can know that. So I think that's a great point, and I understand what people are saying about that, but there's just one. Right? There's another one coming out soon. The kind of, it looks like it's a Shakespearean set one though. So
there is.
It looks like it's kind of like
is it
Titania, Queen of the Fairies, if I remember seeing the cover.
My favorite one, my favorite Shakespeare play, bonus points. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Bonus points if you know who that is.
What? It's the witches, but like, where's this? Are we?
You said Shakespeare, and I just had to do to be or not to be. That
because I didn't prepare my monologue.
Is the question?
Find my favorite sonnet. Jeez.
Whether's his nobler in the mind. Okay, I'll stop.
Yeah. So I don't know about the tone, because obviously there's only one in the blue series so far. So I'll keep you posted.
Okay, so this is one I might pick up again. We'll see if I can get the right group. It sounds like a lot of fun. So, well, Time Stories, well, I don't even have a good segue to go into my next game at all. So we'll just jump right in, like jumping into water.
Smooth like butter. Like butter.
So the next game I'm going to talk about is Orchard Ocean. So this is designed by Masaki Suga. Artist is Sayori Shibata, and it's published by Analog Lunchbox. So this game is one I don't know if it's available in North America. I'm going to say no. It's
not.
I didn't think so.
Not.
So when we get to price, I'll explain that a little bit. But In this game, you're a fruit farmer creating an orchard atop a man-made island in the deep blue sea, and you're trying to basically make the best orchard to attract those customers and make some money. So it's a 3 to 4 player game. It plays in about 60 to 90 minutes, and it's a tile placement game. So the price, I had to look this up. So on their site, it says 7,000 yen, which translates to about 90 Canadian and 65 US. I believe we purchased it at Essen for about 50 or 60 euros. 50 euros, I feel? Something in that ball point. We're going to go with that because now that I see what it actually translates to, it was a lot. But we're going to see if it was worth it, right? Because I'm going to talk about it. All right. So just to talk a little bit about it. So in each round, basically, you're trying to build your orchard. How do you do that? Well, let's talk about that. So let me just move my little screen over here so I can show you. So there are a couple of boards, and anybody who knows Analog Lunchbox, now I'm sorry, Suze, that I had to go ahead and talk about this because I really was hoping that you would have played it by now, but okay, I'm sorry. They like to use their boards efficiently or effectively. You know what I mean? So there are tracks, and we're going to talk about that. They use the same tracks for money and points, and it just makes it a bit more compact. So in the game, I don't know if you can all see this. This is your player board. So this is your orchard that you're going to be developing. And when we start the game, if I have one here, we have a starting harbor. I hope that's not getting a little blurry. It's really light. And that's actually going to start there in the middle of the board. So for those listening, we have a board that is 5 by 5, and it has some squares on it. And in the middle of the board, we're going to start with a tile that says harbor, and it has an anchor on it with the fish crossed out. I think it's fish. Yes, because there are no fishing from this harbor. We'll talk about that momentarily. So that's where that tile will start. Everybody has the same starting place. And then from there, I want to show you the actual board. So we have the scoring board, and this board here is where we track money and points. You'll see it goes down there. We also track the rounds on the side of the board, and on the 4th, 7th, 10th, and 12th round, they're darkened because we're going to have some interval scoring at that point. These places here are going to have tiles that are basically going to be marked first player, second place, third place. So we're going to talk about why that's important. And then here we're going to have a variety of tiles for you to take. These tiles will be directional. I don't know if I pulled one out, but we might. And then these tiles down here are going to be tiles such as these. So these ones have fruits on them, potentially kind of places like vendors that you can sell fruits to. But these are tiles that will be down here. These will be the tiles that will be available for the following round. So you're able to see what's coming up. Good so far? This one's tricky.
Well, and Analog Lunchbox games always are. Analog Lunchbox doesn't do light. Even their simplest game, Pistoli, is a brain burner. It's one of the things I love about them.
Well, it's deceiving because people look at it and they're like, oh, it's cute. So for those of you who are listening, it's like pale blue and it's got a cute little tree on the cover and it's got little fruits and strawberries and it's super cute. And then you start playing this thing and you're like, what? So yeah, wait until I explain the rules a little bit there. It's intense. So you saw the board that I showed you, and basically we're going to have a certain amount of phases, I guess, that happen in the round. And the first thing we do is take turns after we've placed on our harbor board there. We take turns choosing either from here, or from here. You can only, so those listening, you basically can only choose a tile in the 3 places I mentioned. So where you're going to start in turn order, the direction of where your tiles are going to go. So either it's going to be north, never eat shredded wheat. North, east, south, or west. And then the tiles, like the ones that are going to be a vendor or produce some kind of fruit. So you get one of each. The order in which you take them is what matters, because maybe you're like, oh, I want to be first place, but I really want this tile down here, that's going to give me be able to sell my fish or sell my fruits, right? So you have to make that decision, but you will have 3 tiles by the end of it. If you are first to choose a tile from the placing order, you end up getting a worker, and we'll talk about those momentarily. If you are the second, you will also get a worker. Workers are important. They're going to help you run your little vendors and your fruits. And then in the next row here, this is where your directional tiles would be. I was hoping I would have one handy. My apologies. And this here, whoever draws from here first gets a coin. Remember, it's going to be tracked up here. So there's tracked on the same as the scoring. And second gets 1 coin. So 2 for first, 1 coin for second. Third gets nothing, much like the first spot. And then there's no bonuses for getting a tile on the bottom that's going to go on your board. So once you've chosen your tile, you have an opportunity now to place that tile, as I was talking about, on this board. So your main player board. And it has to be, placed adjacent, okay, to, basically, remember our harbor is going to be here, to that. Now, it's important. Placement is really important. I say that because if you noticed on your tiles, so on the harbor tiles, they have arrows. Top, bottom, left, right. We have other tiles that are harbor tiles in the game that can give you multiple arrows on them that are diagonal. And this will make a difference because you have a little figure that sits on the board and you can move it, but it costs you money to move it. You're like, well, why do I need to move it? You can only place a tile adjacent to your person that's on the board. So if you needed to place a tile, let's say, you were here, and keep in mind, you can't walk on water. So you need to be able to have tiles. And this is the trajectory, of movement. You have to make sure that you have tiles where you want to go. Going through this kind of tile, a harbor tile, gives you extra movement, and it doesn't, basically, it's getting you farther. So harbor tiles are important. Are you all following so far? It's a lot. So the main point of what I'm trying to get across here is once you've placed that, you get to place out your workers. Now, workers are important because, I need a moment here to grab one of my tiny tokens. They're small. So if you look at the tile I was showing you earlier, you'll notice they have 2 round spaces. So the tiles, this one I'm showing, is called the restaurant, and it has a fish symbol in the top, and then at the bottom it has a strawberry, pineapple, and grapes. In order for this tile to be active, I need to, oh my goodness, I don't even know if I can do it. It's so small. It's a very tiny little worker that's going to go on that space. Now, obviously, you want to try and fill both of your workers, and you can only place, if you can only get one worker, because you can buy a worker on a round or get it from being first in the turn order, but they're not easy to come by. But you want to try and fill out both spaces because then it's telling you that you can deliver fish if you end up filling out your first worker with pink here on the tile. And then the blue part, which is the strawberry, pineapple, and grape, you end up having to place 2. So you need 2 workers in order to deliver all the goods listed on the tile. This gets tricky because depending on where you place it, you may not have the movement. You'll notice going further, you'll have games with a whole bunch of arrows, right? So it's telling you that you can move diagonally or you can move across, but keeping in mind that if we're delivering fish and I've only put, the pink worker here, that still works, right? But just keep in mind, you need a worker on your tile in order for it to activate. Are you following me, Suzanne? So far?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's a lot. Anyway, so I'm going to keep going through that. So we're going to get to scoring phases intermittently throughout the game. And I mentioned the first one's going to come up. I think it's round 4. And what's going to happen is you're going to go through the tiles that you've placed on your board. And then we've got these cute little tokens. So this red square with dots is strawberries that I'm showing. And basically you want to look at your board and say, okay, can I deliver the fish to this tile or a strawberry to this tile? Remembering that you have to be able to follow the arrows. So did you place correctly? And you can only deliver 1 fruit or 1 resource per tile. So if you have several tiles delivering to a vendor, that's okay. You just can't have the same tile producing multiple times. So that's the game. And then you do those scorings at 4, 7, 10, and 12, rounds 12. And then you do count up your points at the final game. And I think money ends up being worth something for you in the end. Whew. So that's the gist of it. Now, the buildings do increase in better abilities, better values as the rounds progress because we have stacks for, the difference 1, 2, 3. So they do get better. As you saw from this last tile that I showed, it has multiple arrows directions, so you're able to move a bit more freely. Keeping in mind, you will have to pay for extra movement. There are also other tiles that give you bonuses, at the end of the game. And there are also, if you noticed on the player board, there are little points in the corners of each square. And it's important to note that the tiles have little slants on the corners. So some squares, if you place it there, you end up covering the points that are listed depending on where the points are listed in that square. So you may end up losing out on points at the end of the game, but hey, maybe you ended up getting more points by placing it effectively there. So sometimes that happens. So yeah, player with the most points wins. That was it Orchard Ocean? I always want to say it backwards. Oh my goodness, this game's a doozy. So my friends, I think, wanted to kill me. I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's going to be light. No. No.
No analog lunchbox game is light.
It is not, okay? Because I don't know what possessed me to say that. As soon as we started playing it, my friends were like, oh my goodness, my brain hurts. They like, I like it, but I don't think I figured out the placement properly to make it more effective. And then it got to the point we were like, almost working with each other. Okay, I really need that tile, so like don't take that tile, you know? Because they're like, no, I really want that tile. And then I have my friend Tracy. Yes, I'm calling you out, girl, when she decided to take a tile that literally would have won me the game. I see you. So all that to say, I liked this game a lot. It's heavier than it looks light. It's not. It rates, I think, a 3 on BGG, and I would say that's accurate. The rules, for the most part, are pretty straightforward. It's the actual placement and getting things to work, like getting a system to work in the game, that's difficult. The component quality, so you can hear this, it's really sturdy cardboard. Like, it's thick. So the boards are thick. Like, it's really nice. So I have to say, really good on that. The little bitty components, albeit they're nice and thick, they're small. And as you can see with my very long fingers and nails, it's really hard for me to pick things up. So I mean, I get it for the aesthetic of the game that it has to be small, and I appreciate it, and it looks great, but it is a bit fiddly and hard to work with, for me maybe specifically. But I did like the aesthetic of the game. It's super cute. I love the coloring on it. I mean, I like the way their games look in general. The effective use of the board is good, but I found we did get a bit confused with the money and the points. We'd be like, wait, did you move the money?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Being on the same track, I was like, oh my goodness. And after a while, you know, if you go over a certain number, there is a little tile that will help you out to keep track of, you know, scoring and whatnot. But I did find that was a bit confusing for me. The first game is just figuring it out. Some people might be better than others, so don't judge this game based on the first play, because I know the people I played with were getting really frustrated with placement, and that's more of a gameplay thing for them. So I think if you played this the first time, follow up with another game, and I'm telling you, I think it'll click. The first one's just trying to figure it out and get past the, oh, it's cute, and there's like an actual game here. It's a lot of planning. If that's not for you, this may not be for you. I'm not a planner. I still enjoyed it. I did terribly, but it just makes me work to be better for next time. So overall, I quite enjoyed this game. I like a lot of their games. This is a winner for me. So Orchard Ocean, thumbs up.
Yeah, it's just one I sadly have not managed to get to my table, but I love Analog Lunchbox, and for sure that one looks like it's right in line with their other brain burnery games.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, to wrap up games played, I am going to be talking about a tile laying game called 100 Torii.
I have this one. I haven't played it yet. Okay, I'm excited to hear what you say.
Oh, good. Well, I will see how it goes then, won't we? 100 Torii is a tile laying game. It's designed by Scott Caputo and Edo Baraf. The art is by the ever wonderful Vincent Dutre, and it's published by Pencil First Games. Yes, it's Vincent's art. Ugh,
I love it. It's so beautiful.
Vincent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it retails for $40 in the United States. So 100 Torii is a tile laying game, but it's really a resource management game. And honestly, the game, in some ways that it reminds me the most of, is Century Spice Road, with that kind of cube exchange thing.
Okay, I like
this is the same thing where you're going to be laying tiles that have paths and icons on them. But really what you're trying to do is create a little engine with these, not engine, that's probably the wrong term, but you're trying to create paths that connect these different icons that you have.
Right.
That represent things like fish ponds or wells or little packages and things like that. So all these different tiles have these icons spread around them. And as you connect them through paths, you're connecting the icons through paths, you will get resource tokens that match that icon. So if I connect my tile and it has a well icon and I can path it back to another well icon, I'm going to get a well token.
Oh, nice.
Great. It's really that simple. And the reason why you want to get these tokens is that as you get more tokens, you just exchange your resource tokens for a bigger token that matches it. So if I've got a certain number of garden Lotus Bowl tokens, when I have 5, I can exchange it for a bigger Lotus token that is worth 5 points.
Okay.
Then when I get 5 more, I actually can flip that token over, and then it's worth 10 points. So you're literally just putting these paths together to connect these icons so that you can get tokens to exchange them for bigger tokens, which can be flipped into another token. And if you get so many of those, then you can also get a bonus token as well. There are tokens you can get worth points that if you have diversity in the big tokens you get, or a certain number of levels that you can achieve on these different resources. It really is that simple. It's really just exchange, exchange, exchange.
Right.
Now, what makes it interesting beyond the pathing, and I love pathing games in general, so I'm inclined to like this, is that tiles will have those icons and paths on them, but they will also have bridges or gates. And these gates come in red or blue. The trick in this game is driving your path when you connect icons through as many gates as possible, because gates give you bonus tokens.
Right.
So if you go through and I may have this reversed, but if you go through a blue gate, you get an extra token matching the ones that you've connected.
Okay.
So if I've matched Lotus tokens and I go through a blue gate, I get 1 token for matching the Lotus tokens, and then I get a bonus Lotus token for going through a blue gate.
Oh, okay, nice.
If you go through a red gate, you get a token of your choice except for the one that you matched. So again, if I'm matching Lotus tokens and I go through a red gate, I can pick any of the other 5 types.
Right.
So there is an efficiency thing going on and a planning thing going on as you're laying out your tiles and you're pathing and you're trying to match up icons and get through as many gates as possible, because every gate you go through is going to give you more tokens. And going through that motion and getting these tokens as fast as you can is what you really want to do. It's really all about that token exchange and getting those.
Right.
And the gates is the magic on how you do that. And it's a thing where it's the shortest possible route. So your starting tile has one of everyone. But as you get more and more tiles out, you'll see that people will put a well token there or a well tile. And you're like, well, darn it, I had this whole long path planned, and now you just cut me off in the middle, and now I have fewer gates and that kind of thing. There's a little bit of denial here, whether I think it's mostly unintentional. Maybe some of it's intentional, where somebody can kind of gank the section that you wanted to do and get the path that you wanted a little bit faster. Like I said, there's diversity token bonus points, that kind of thing. You can level up these. There's also characters that you can recruit to get help. So you can exchange a certain number of tokens at random to get help from people that will let you lay 2 tiles at once, or let you block off a space just for you, or let you block off an icon. The poet, my favorite, actually blocks an icon. So remember how I said it's the shortest path.
Right.
So you get to go past the poet. The poet stands on the well or whatever icon and is like, nope, nothing exists here. So you can lengthen your path and get more gates through you. And I love that one. But it takes tokens to ask for their help.
Of course.
But you also, the more you use them, you can also get points for using them. So you can get points all over the place how you're spending your tokens. And so it's a very open game. It's a very, I don't know if relaxed is the right word, but which would be thematically appropriate, really.
Right.
But it's a very straightforward game, but it has just enough to kind of keep you interested and really thinking. It is not something that's punishing. Like we talked about how Cooper Island is just punishing.
Oh, it so is.
Right, if you make a mistake, you're out of it, and that is not 100 Torii at all.
Okay.
As you get to the end game, as the tiles run out, it does scale for player count by the number of tiles. The game slows down because everybody's trying to count gates and path and figure out where they can get the most. It's not really a big deal, but it's something that we kind of noticed and laughed at as we were playing the game. I think the game scales very, very well. So I've played it at 2, 3, and 4 players. And because it scales to tiles, it it plays very, very well, but it's interesting. It feels different at 2 players than at 4 players, as you have more people cutting off paths and things like that. So in a 2-player game, you interfere with each other a little less, as opposed to a 4-player game where you're interfering with each other a lot. And I think that's okay. I'm fine with it feeling a little bit different because it was fun either way. The art by Vincent Dutray is gorgeous, just gorgeous. And it's one of these interesting things. When you look at the art on the tile, it's very thematic. You're in this garden and it has all these things. And so when you're passing these little landscape things, like a little statue or a little well, the art is on the tile in perspective. And then they kind of do a blow up circle of the icon so you can, for playability.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, I was trying to figure that out. Okay, I see. Yeah,
Right?
I can see it now. Yeah.
I appreciate it for the playability, but it's kind of sad because the tableau, the visual tableau that you get without those icons is so charming and so pretty because Vincent did such a great job on the art.
Right.
It is what it is. You got to be able to play the game. So I think the right choice. I will also say that the game has some of the cutest, prettiest little custom meeples I've ever seen, representing 2 of the characters that you can use. And I'm really sad that there are only 2 in the game.
Oh no, are they screen?
Because you only need 2 for playability, but the design of them is so pretty.
Are they silk screen?
I wish I had more.
Are they silk screen or are they stickered?
No, they're silk screen. These are
that's fantastic.
or silk screened or whatever, and they're just gorgeous. These beautiful custom little meeples that come with the game as well. I wish I had more. Really, 100 Torii, I really enjoy it. I like tile laying games, I like pathing games, and I like resource exchange games, so it kind of hit the points, everyone there. It's a beautiful game. It's easy to teach. It's simple to play, and it has just enough. This is not a heavy game. This is not even a brain burner. This is something that you can sit down and have a little bit of an inter-player challenge and moment and experience and really have fun doing it without weighing down. So it's a great nightcap game, a great game to play at the end of the night or whatever, but don't fool yourself. It's not 6-nimped or no thanks either. There's definitely a solid game here. You're definitely challenging. There's efficiencies, there's pathing, there's cutting people off. So there's plenty of stuff going on in 100 Torii. I really enjoy it. I'm keeping this one. It's a winner for me.
Okay, yeah, this is one I saw it and I was like, okay, I wasn't sure where this was going. I actually didn't think tiling at all when I saw the box. I mean, not that it said anything otherwise. Is it mean, though? It sounds like it gets mean with more people because you're lacking in area, maybe? Okay.
I wouldn't consider it mean. I think that when you cut somebody off in this game, it's as much about, oh, well, that was just a spot that benefited you as well. It wasn't because you were specifically doing it to deny it to the other person. You're doing it because you need that spot. And so I don't think that's mean. I think that's a game.
Right.
So I would not consider this, the way that you have player interaction in this, I would not consider it mean.
Okay, yeah, because I know everyone's like, oh, what is it? It matters because I have people who will not play those types of games. I don't like, even if a game is kind of in that direction, I never go that route, so I just won't bother. So no, this is great. I have it, so I'm looking forward to trying it, and I can give my thoughts at a later time.
Sounds good. All right. So yeah, we're gonna. Thanks, everyone. So we're just we have a couple more segments, but I am reading the questions. I know we're trying to get the podcast done, but we will save a little bit of time to answer some questions. I hope that's okay. And now it's fine. So we're gonna export files. So if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll try to answer them while we're in a break. Because what we do is we actually save files in real time, just so we have them on our system. So this just takes a minute to export the audio anyway.
But I know I did see some questions about Orchard Ocean. I see a lot of people are not feeling the aesthetic at all, which is just totally fine. I mean, I get that.
Oh, I love the aesthetic
of
Orchard
Ocean. I really like it.
I love that clean graphic look. I think that's so pleasant.
Yeah, 100%. I'm right there with you. But I get it. Not for everybody. But it's much like Food Chain Magnet. I like the look of it. People like it's very plain, but you have to keep in mind at the time that they're trying to pull from, and that's how it was. So this will be a big file, so here we go. Export.
Yeah. No, I will say that I wouldn't say it was a surprise that I liked 100 Torii, because I typically like games from the design group and obviously, Vincent's art and all this other stuff, but
absolutely.
It's a keeper for me. It's just I think what it is it does something different enough, right?
Mhm.
Because tile lane's so common, pathing's common, resource
Sure.
exchange is common, but somehow the way they put it together, it felt different enough, and
Oh.
that's a big bonus for me.
I saw something in the comments of people asked somebody had asked if we show pieces while we talk. And I'm like, sometimes I'm talking a game, but I think it's because too, I think people forget I'm a teacher. So I think, and this is something I'm aware of, I sometimes want to explain everything because I know people can't see it. And I'm one of those people that needs the details, and that's not for everybody. So this is something, yes, I have to work on, but I just.
Michelle is asking, is there a game that you and I really disagree on? And yes, Michelle, there is at least one. There's probably more than one, quite frankly.
There's one,
but there is one that we very much disagree on.
Do you want to do the honors with that one?
Sure. And it's automobiles.
If you want to see this, no, I did a playthrough of it with my friend Michael, and I'm pretty sure it might be on my other channel, To Die For Games, it may be on the Dice Tower. Just watch my face. Oh my god. If you want to feel bad about yourself, play automobiles. Oh my goodness, you can see. I'm sorry, now I'm just on a tangent. You can see when you're gonna lose. And I don't care about winning or losing, but the fact that I can see it, no.
That's true in so many games, though, Mandy.
But that one is like, there's nothing you can do. Literally nothing.
Well, you could have played better earlier in the game, is what you could have done.
Okay. Now you're
I love automobiles. It's one of my favorite games. Pool building racing game where the cubes that you pull, they have different abilities and that can mix up from game to game. I love it. There's different tracks that you can play on, and it plays out differently depending on what track you're playing on. I love automobiles. It's one of my favorite games. It's like top 100 game for me.
I mean, I was all excited when I heard Bag Builder. Oh, yeah, this is great. And then I was like, what is this? Like, I think for me, it was just, it's harsh game. It's not a bad game, you know what? And I really have to be careful. It's not a bad game. It just didn't like me. I was not favored that day. It made me feel, I've never had that feeling before playing a game. I felt so bad about myself.
And somebody's asking if you've played Russian Railroads.
Love it. Love Russian Railroads. I play that on Yukata. I play that in person. I haven't played it for a while. I even got American Railroads. I have yet to play it. Love Russian Railroads. It is so good. I'm terrible at it, but it's amazing. See, there's a game I can lose and feel good about myself afterward.
Well, Ottar agrees with you.
Thank you.
He's saying that on automobiles. That's okay. I still like you both, even though you're wrong.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, here's the thing about I like Russian Railroads. Yeah. But since I've had the opportunity, I don't want to say I've started playing 18xx games because I'm not into them the way 18xx players get. But now that I've played some 18xx games, honestly, I'd rather play an 18xx game than Russian Railroads.
Okay, see, and for me, it has a different vibe. Like I've played.
Totally.
Now, let's be clear. I've played one 18xx game, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But for me, I think maybe it's just the time investment. Do you know what I mean? Like the Russian Railroads, it's kind of like, oh, this gives me like a little bit of what I want, scratch that itch. But if I'm really have the time to commit, sure, I agree with you on that, 100%.
We'll have to think of other games that we disagree with.
Actually, that'd be a good segment. And the problem is for me, and I think this is something I have to be careful of, I have no issue saying if a game is a good game, it just destroyed me, or just there was something about it that I just didn't like, whether it's a mechanic or sometimes literally it's just the way it made me feel. I'm a very, I wouldn't say I'm sensitive, but for me, memories or how things happen in a game really sit with me. So I know that's not probably for everybody, but that's just how I am. So.
Alrighty, are you exported?
Yes, I have exported the things, and
Hostage is coming out in the chat that they love 18xx games, but not so much the other people who love 18xx. And I will just say, Bostitch, I'm very, very lucky that some of my very closest gaming friends are super into 18xx, and they are delightful. They are so much fun, and they're so pleasant, and I have had some interesting experiences with the 18xx community, and I will stick to playing 18xx with my very dear friends. Let's put it that
Yeah,
way.
I was lucky enough that Ambi actually taught me my first game.
Oh,
Ambi and
yeah.
her husband, and they were fantastic. So if you ever
course.
have an opportunity to learn it, if they're available or willing to teach, they were great. And I mean, I won, and I say in quotes because obviously I needed a lot of help, but they let me make my own decisions. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't like
Sure.
do this, do this. These are the things you can do. And as a teacher, I very much appreciated that. So
Yep.
yeah, it was great. Okay, sorry, I digress.
Okay.
So I'm
you
gonna
want to hit record.
Yeah,
so we're
hit
gonna talk
record.
apps now. Ready?
Yep.
Recording.
Yep.
Test. Yep. Okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Well, with everything going on, Mandi and I have actually been, well, the whole Dice Tower actually has been making an effort to stream a little bit more just to kind of connect with everybody and give us all a little something to do.
Yeah.
And so we snuck in a game of Charterstone the other day with our friend Ashley.
Yes.
And we live streamed it on the Dice Towers YouTube, and Charterstone just recently, like March 26th, came out
recent.
in digital form. It is available on iOS and Android for $10, or you can get it on Steam for $19, and it will be coming out on the Switch as well.
That
in a little bit.
Didn't know. I didn't know it was coming to Switch.
Well, I got all the goods.
Listen,
Mandi.
I've been playing my Switch. I gotta stop here for a second. Just for all of you playing Animal Crossing. That's why I'm obsessed with Switch lately. We'll save that conversation for offline, but anyway, this is very cool.
Seriously, you could probably just host like the Animal Crossing hour every day on the Dice Tower channel.
Yes, that's right. And for all those listening, yes, I created a Discord channel, and it's all about Animal Crossing. Anyway, I digress. Back to Charterstone.
Back to Charterstone. So, Charterstone is a legacy style game designed by Jamie Stegmaier, published by Stonemaier Games. The art is by Lena Cosette and David Forrest. And Acram Digital has done the digital port into the digital platforms. So let's just talk about the app a little bit. It has a solo mode, or you can play multiplayer. You can play single one-off games of Charterstone, or you can go ahead and do the full legacy campaign style game play. You are able to play cross-platform, and it's got a really nice built-in tutorial that will teach you the flow of the game. It has on-screen tips that you can play, so it kind of hints at what you should be doing as you're kind of entering into the game. And it has a really great rules reference, which is something that I've noticed a lot of board game apps neglect to do.
Yes, agreed.
And it drives me banana pants. I really dislike it when an app does not give you a rules book or section that you can look up the rules specifically in the app natively. And hey, Charterstone has that. It's laid out beautifully. It's in referenceable sections and all that good stuff. So massive thumbs up on that. So Mandi, I have never played Charterstone in real life, but you have.
I did. And I have to say, to start, you played really well because Ashley and I were kind of fighting to be ahead. And then I'm like, what's this? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Suzanne coming up from the back to, 2 points from where I was.
Coming from the very distant rear. Yeah, I got it.
Sorry. I gotta, enjoy these moments. So I played Charterstone, yes, the actual game, with some friends. I think we played with 4 of us played full game, and I think it's 12 games in total. Someone can correct me in the chat if I'm incorrect about that. And I had some issues with Charterstone. The game itself is fine. When I say fine, it's not bad, it's not great. I found it a bit lagging, and I said this in our playthrough. So for those of you who want more details, you can check out our Apptastic episode of Charterstone we played on Steam. I just found playing the actual game, which just felt like the beginning, it took a while to kind of get rolling. So maybe after the second game, you're like, oh, okay, or third game, you're like, oh, now I'm into it. And then it started to drag. So like this is something, instead of being 12 games, it could have been 8. And I think that would have made like a tighter, more intense game. But maybe that's not what they were going for. Maybe they wanted a bit more relaxed, someone to take their time. That's just not for me. Like, I like something that has a bit of a pace to it. Oh, surprise. Oh, surprise. Oh, let's do this. And I felt like it wasn't like that. Now, did I win? I sure didn't. So the way I'm talking, you would think that I won. I didn't, but for me, I just felt like it was too long. But the actual game itself, I can really appreciate the iconography is very clear, because it's a lot when you first look at it. Even in the app, you're like, oh my goodness. But the little tips in the app that help you along, because like you were able to, I mean, we just did a quick playthrough, and you were able to really pick up on it rather well, I thought, and so it's very clear, and that I can appreciate. So overall, for me, Charterstone is not a game for me particularly, but I could see the appeal. It's easy to understand, a bit more accessible for people, and you can play it again. So yeah, Charterstone for me is it's fine.
And I will say that as a person who has not played the physical board game, I really, really appreciated the app version. It made the entry into the gameplay really light and easy. I don't think it's a very complex game overall, but I really enjoyed playing it digitally. I will say, as a note, that if you play a solo game, it pops you into the game with a bunch of stuff unlocked. So if you want to play Charterstone and get that unlockable, progressive experience, you cannot play a solo game, a single standalone game in the app, because it will have elements that you would typically have to unlock. So heads up on that. I think that the interface is really intuitive and well laid out. The graphics, it very much looks like Charterstone from
100%.
an aesthetic point of view.
Yes.
Even from a layout point of view and all that other good stuff. But they've added cute little ambient animations, so you have the flags on the building are waving and things like that. Just small, subtle touches.
The cat
that
tail.
you can do in digital. Yeah.
Sorry.
That can kind of bring the digital board game experience to life a little bit, give it a little bit of motion, a little bit of ambient sound and things like that. And I think that Acrom Digital did a really nice job on that.
They did,
so
very much so.
What I found, Mandy, is that we just jumped right in and we played a game that had all those unlocked pieces in it, and that's what you would see in that episode of Apptastic. Walking away from that, having not played Charterstone, I actually pulled out my iPad and started a solo play campaign.
Nice. Okay.
Just to get that unlocked experience, to see that build up and things like that. And it's very interesting as you're doing that. The game really does, when you start up a campaign, really does walk you through all the early stuff. So for me, it's actually a little annoying because I'm like, I know how to do all this. Click, 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 click. But
when I was beta testing, they asked me to help with some, test it out. I also played against the AI on there. And for me, I've played the game, so it was like, yeah, okay, I know this. Come on, try and get there. But I understand that it needs to set itself up for you to go forward. So I think this is a game that, having it as an app, I think for me, I would play it as an app, because then I can just come to it whenever I feel like it. Versus having it as a board game, I feel I'd be like,
But I think as we're all looking for things to do, if you've been wanting to try Charterstone and you're looking for a way that you can play with your friends distantly, it's a solid way to experience the game.
Absolutely.
I really enjoy it. It's on all the different platforms that you can pick from. I think the digital port is top notch, from bringing the physical into the digital sphere. And from that perspective, if Charterstone is a game that you've been wanting to explore and you're open to digital gaming, the app is a perfectly excellent way to go, because from an app perspective, Charterstone is a wonderful board game app.
Oh, 100%. And I just to give you reference, I don't love Splendor. Like, I really don't like that game. I have the app. The app is really well done. Do you know what I mean? And I play it. So it's much like Charterstone. I mean, it was fine, but I think I would be more inclined to play the app. So it's just because they did such a good job. So overall, I know they're still taking feedback if there's anything. So if you do end up getting that, send it to them. Acrom Games is more than happy to take that in. So Charterstone, the app, check it out.
Alrighty. Okay, let's save that.
All right, we're taking a little save here.
Export break.
Yes. Okay.
All the glamour of podcasting.
I know, right? Everyone's like, this is so not exciting. But this is how we do it. I feel like that's a song. Oh, it is.
Come on. What do you mean you feel like it's a song?
It took me a minute, okay. Oh, goodness gracious.
And that's something that Clank Legacy, which obviously you and I adore.
Oh, love Clank Legacy.
That's what they did so well. Every game, multiple times, you're discovering something, you're doing something, you're interacting, you're unlocking, you're stickering, and it's so engaging on that front.
Like legacy games, and I know I see it in the chat, some people are like, I'm over it, and I get it. It's like, when you have a trend in clothes or a trend in something, it's like, okay, I've seen this 5,000 times, it's hard to get a fresh take on it. And I just don't play a lot of legacy games because they just take so much time, and I mean, I personally don't have it. So if I play a legacy game, it's got to be fantastic. Like Clank, for me, worth it, and I've played it again since we finished it. So for me, it's an investment, and it's the time. So I don't know. Do you think this is going to be a trend that's going to continue?
Legacy?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I would assume so, but it may. I don't know. I mean, I would assume so.
Okay.
Because when it's good, it's really, really good. Like I would play. I mean, if they announce Clank Legacy 2, I'm pre-ordering it wherever
I'm right
I need
there.
to.
Oh, someone, yes.
Play.
I found out the song, Montel Jordan. Thank you. This is how
Oh my gosh, that's right. Oh my gosh, that. Wow.
That brings back some memories.
Oh my good gravy.
Oh goodness.
Alrighty. Are you exported? I'm exported.
Yeah, I'm just opening a new window. File. So just before we start, I just have to double check.
Yeah.
Oh, and I see some comments about Stardew Valley. I also play Stardew Valley, but I've had to put it aside temporarily to get Animal Crossing up and running.
Look, folks out there, you have no idea how obsessed Mandi is with Animal Crossing New Horizons.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No idea.
I don't know. Okay, I literally found an article where you can put one of the little raccoons prisoner so you don't have to pay your loan. Anyway.
Are you serious?
I kid you not. Anyway, we need a whole other stream for that, but...
Oh my gosh, Mandi. I love that, like, the way the game works, there are things that you need to achieve, and you're supposed to gather stuff and exchange stuff over time. And let's say all this stuff that you're supposed to have accomplished by day 15, like you've got down on day 3. Like you are just like in it. You're like,
and I'm not even that bad. There are people that are hard
chopping down trees and picking fruit.
Listen, there are people hard way more than me. Like I have friends you should see as like a palace. I'm like, oh, don't come to my island.
Yeah, I think some people are doing a little bit of time travel. You know what I'm saying? Are you exporting? You ready to go?
I've exported. Let me just record. I am recording.
Okay, recording. Making sure it's picking up audio. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right, gaming in the time of quarantine. Dun, dun, dun. I mean, we figured it's hard, right? Because the world is full of doom and gloom, and there's a lot of bad news in the world. There's a lot of good news in the world all related to this. But we wanted to tackle it head on because it's part of our lives. It's part of your lives. It's part of why we chose to live stream the podcast recording today. It's impacting us all. But what's interesting is we all are immersed in a hobby that is kind of made in some ways for holding up in your house, whether it's sitting down with your family, playing games, or looking at online options or that kind of thing. And it's interesting to see like news stories coming out about how people are pulling out board games and discovering board games now since they're home and they're looking for things to do with their family members that they're holed up with. And I think that's great. But for victory points, we just really quickly, we didn't give a lot of notes, so apologies, but we popped a question into the Dice Towers Board Game Geek Guild, as we do with every victory point segment. Well, almost every victory point segment. To get your input on how gaming is helping you or not during the pandemic, and kind of what games are working particularly well for you. So we got some answers and we can go through those, and Mandi, you and I can talk about it a little bit as well and see where that leads us. So if you want to start us off with the first one here.
All right, here we go. So I didn't use real names here. I just used their screen name, okay, because not everybody likes to be their name mentioned publicly. So I will just read it. So the first one is from S. O'Rourke. Games are providing some needed downtime from the anxiety we're all swimming in these days. Some of it is solo, tabletop and apps. Some of it's online, the castles of Burgundy, Targi, Ulm, Firenze. Did I say that right? Firenze? And others on Yukata. And at least once has been on FaceTime. Just one with friends down the street that we can't see in person right now. Alex and Sean from the Dukes of Dice organized a guild tournament of the castles of Burgundy on Yukata, and that's helped the community stay in touch with each other. Unfortunately, their exit was early. Anything that can turn off the external news and turn down the internal turmoil over it is welcome. It's hard to do without the real contact of gaming around the table, but it's taking the edge off.
And Diabolo Wombat wins a prize for that username, first of all. Says that my normal game group finally tried out Tabletopia. Played Wingspan the other night and went well. They are saying they'll likely stick to games that they know on the platform, but may try out new games at some point. And one side benefit of digital play is that they've reconnected via Tabletopia with some friends in older game groups that they had moved away from. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Tabletopia. We'll talk about that after, but that's something we've delved into as well. The next is from at WM Reed. I've been playing a lot of online video games. Last of Us, The Division 2. So have I, The Witcher. But when I want to play a board game, I've been using BoardGameArena.com. It was worth the $24 for the year to have constant access. Their servers have been overwhelmed by the surge in new accounts, but the premium accounts, which are about $24 a year, are always granted access. That's actually something to think. I hadn't even thought about that.
Mm-hmm. TribeFan07 says games without shared components or draw decks tend to work well on Skype and Zoom with friends that they can't hang out with, and that a couple of friends purchased copies of War of the Rings, and they've been playing that together on a weekly basis, and they've been really happy with that experience. It's a silver lining on their current global crisis.
Oh, wow. At Chop says, shelf of shame is shrinking. Getting games to the table that might not otherwise get played. I'm a little envious. This is not happening for me.
Ruel Gaviola says that their wife Michelle and daughter Lauren are streaming a game every day on Facebook, and it's a fun way to bond as a family. The best games so far have been ones where other people can play along, like Number 9, Karuba, Railroad Inc., Rolling America, and that they've enjoyed all the games that they've streamed. It's the play-along games that have been the best group experiences.
Okay. Next up is at Dale. Oh, I get it. So, Dale, games are a great way to spend some time with the family. I've introduced my 7-year-old daughter to a number of games that she's really enjoyed, even with a little bit of assistance. My 4-year-old son likes being involved, but his attention span is limited, so they often have to take over his character. She enjoyed playing the panda in Takenoko, coming up with a story of her traveler in Tokaido, and rescuing the dog in Flashpoint Fire Rescue. I've tried a few other games with her that didn't work so well, but she is super keen to try more. I love that she's asking to play more, and that's her choice. It really brings a smile in these depressing times. Aww.
At SONP says back in the Czech Republic, they can only go to work and back, and they must wear face masks on the street. So gaming in quarantine is something that they desperately need to stay sane. Mm-hmm. Fortunately for them, both they and their wife are strong gamers, so there's a game night practically every evening. They started a campaign of Lord of the Rings, Journeys to Middle Earth, and play a lot of their favorite Terraforming Mars and Pandemic Legacy.
And lastly, we have Kay Curie. Hubby and I are going to try and meet up online with my brother today and try a case of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, West End Adventures. We have the game, so we will do the reading on our end and can send him a picture of the map and any pertinent rules. That's really smart, sending him like a little picture so you can see the layout.
Well, I love that. I think that we're seeing, there's a few things I really like in these answers. One, not everybody's playing board games. Even board gamers are not always playing board games. And I think it's totally fine.
You feel kind of guilty, though, and that's why I made that comment. Like, I'm literally playing The Witcher, I think it's 3 right now, and I'm really like, I should be playing a board game. I don't really play solo, but I should really be playing a board game. But I'm enjoying, I gotta tell you, I'm playing The Witcher in story mode, and I'm actually really enjoying it. And then I have my Animal Crossing, which I promise we won't talk about. But I have other avenues. And then if I do still want to play a board game, I can do it on Tabletopia, which we tried out the other day for an upcoming stream. So I mean, I love it, and we shouldn't feel guilty about it. Is my point.
Yeah. And I obviously a lot of people are using or discovering and using the myriad of web-based sites that offer board gaming experiences like
Right.
Yucata or Board Game Arena or tabletop simulator, that kind of thing. There's first of all, that's just a few of them. There's a bunch of them. I will say, I did a podcast with the Ding and Dent podcast
Oh
where we
yeah.
specifically talked about digital gaming during this weird time that we're all going through, and we talked a little bit more about the options that you can get there. But I think it's a really good point. All of these services have existed for years,
Right. They've always been around.
and they are experiencing an unprecedented influx of users, so they're overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
And bless their hearts, oh, all the good karma upon them for working in this crisis to get their sites amped up so that they can handle the traffic and fulfill gamers' desire to play games with each other online.
Mhm.
Now, things like Tabletop Simulator, there's very little rules enforcement. It's basically a sandbox where you can go
Right.
in and you can load modules. Some of them are licensed, some of them are not, so there's a little sensitivity around that. But it takes a lot of work, quite
Mhm.
frankly, in Tabletop Simulator. I use it when I help Restoration Games. We play test in there. It works really well. But for me personally, sites like Yucata or Board Game Arena,
Mhm.
where there's rules enforcement,
Right.
where the game knows what you're allowed to do and aren't allowed to do, and kind of has mechanisms built into the code to enable that for all the games, and they're approved by the publisher to exist on those sites. I personally really, really enjoy those. So I play on Board Game Arena and Yucata quite a lot. Less so on like Board Spiel Welt and a few
Mhm.
others, but there's out there. And I will also point out that there are sites no matter what kind of gaming you like, because there are ones that have the now I can't remember the not Spielbox, but Splotter games,
Mhm.
right? On digital online play.
Which
You play
is
Indonesia.
Ugh, I still
Fujing
haven't played
Nanya.
that. That's amazing. I'd love to play that.
Yeah, so whether you're on something like a Board Game Arena or one of these other sites, there's a really wide, like Bois de Jeu, things like that. There's a really wide uh, variety of games available. And if you're looking for Antiquity or Versindesfolk, that is available on BoardGameCore.net if you're looking for that.
Mhm.
And and then there's just playing in person or getting creative.
Right.
Now, Mandy, one of the things you and I have discussed is we think it would be fun to play escape room games together,
Yes.
streaming.
I managed to have one right here. So for those who are online listening, I'm showing Exit the game The Stormy Flight, or even possibly just a simple game that I haven't played yet and would love to play. Just
You're holding up. So Mandy's holding up The Crew,
The Crew is my second
which
one. Yes,
doesn't make for great radio, Mandy.
but I said the first one. I just forgot to say the second one.
I would love to play The Crew with you because I love that game. So we need to rectify that, and it is available on one of the sites online. I will
Right.
also point that out.
Yeah. But yeah, I
So-
think definitely getting those exit games on there, because they are hard for me to get to the table. A lot of my friends play them solo, so it's like, well, great, I've got like 5 of them downstairs, so I think we should definitely. And these ones are only a 2-pointer, so like they're 2 out of 5, so it's good for me. I can do these ones.
Yeah, I'm in. I'd love to play with you. I think that's a lot of fun. And then obviously there are all the board game apps available on your phone or on your tablet and things like that on iOS, Android, or Steam. And I think what I found, and I've done this a lot over the years, and the thing I would highly recommend if you have the technological capabilities is load up whatever game you want to play against each other, whether it's Star Realms or Charterstone or what have you,
Right.
and then load up a Skype window. Load up a Zoom chat or something and turn on the cameras. I don't care if your hair isn't done or you're looking schlubby or whatever.
Yeah,
your
exactly.
kitchen
Nobody
out of dirty
cares.
dishes. But the ability of technology to help us connect when we're kind of isolated is huge. And the ability to play a game and see your opponents and talk to them, especially when it's friends that live across the country or live next door and you can't go hang out with them, is really, really valuable right now. And all of these games in so many platforms are available for you to experience board gaming.
Yes.
Just in a different way.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it takes, like, Tabletopia took us some time, right? To get that all sorted out.
Yeah.
But now I think we got the hang of it. And I just think it's going to open, I think, more doors for people. There are people who were so focused on just board games. Tangible, right? They don't want to play online. And I think now people are kind of forced and going, oh, not so bad, right? So just something to consider.
Yeah, for sure. If you have any questions about board game app services or board game apps, you are welcome to email me. It's something that I've spent a lot of energy on over the last 6 years or so, and I'm happy to share whatever knowledge I have on that front. And if you have any tips or any sites or services that you're really loving, let me know, because I want to know about all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got a nice listing right now. I have a little sticky with them somewhere of a whole bunch of apps that are on sale. So for those of you who don't know, Suzanne posts when there are apps on sale, and I think I have like 6 or 7 I need to get now. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. I know. They're on sale though, so you're saving money,
that's
really. That's how math works. That's how money works, right?
Exactly.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you have those questions, you can always contact me. My email is Suzanne@dicetower.com.
And mine is Mandi. That's Mandi with an I @dicetower.com.
As always, we so deeply appreciate that you join us and listen to the podcast and be part of our little Dice Tower family. It's an honor and privilege to be here with you. Next episode, Tom and Eric will be back for 653. Well, they will be talking about their favorite N games, their favorite games that begin with the letter N. I wonder how Eric's holding up. Because I know when Tom first said, we're going to go through the alphabet, Eric was a little, huh?
He's keeping up. He's keeping up.
They're on N. They are trucking through. They are making magic happen. I'm impressed. So you can give that a listen next episode. So until next time, everybody, I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandi Hutchinson.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
There we go. That was a wrap. All right, so we're just going to take a quick break here to save it, and then we won't keep you too much longer. Might wrap up with answering a few more questions before we sign off.
Sure, yeah. If anybody has any questions we can stay online while we're...
I do have a couple here in Twitch, so we can just go through those after.
Good.
This is D, right?
That would be file D.
Thank you.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that
I feel so bad for these sites that are just being overwhelmed. You see their social media and they're like, we're sorry, we're trying really hard.
Servers are down. I mean, it's a lot. Think about it. It's a lot. So people just have to be patient, We'll get sorted out in all due time.
Ben's in the chat asking how you're doing this afternoon.
Oh, me specifically? Aw, yeah. Ben, I'm good actually. Today I don't know if you caught all of the chat. I've pried my Switch out of my hand to be here with all of you. And so yeah, I've been doing a lot of that and working out. Actually, been getting a lot of workouts done at home, which is fantastic. And spending time with my mom. And yeah, I have to say this. She came into my room the other day and she was like, oh, so for those who don't know, my mom and I own a house together. And she comes into the room. She looks at my keyboard. She's like, I tried to use your computer, but like the keys didn't light up or anything. Like, can you get a new keyboard? Wow. I don't think my mom has any idea how much things cost. I showed her this really cute, pink keyboard. It's a Razer keyboard that matches my headset. And I think it's like,
so fancy.
Oh, it's like $200. I think they're on sale. She's like, oh, what's $200? I'm like, oh, well, excusez-moi. I'm glad you just threw it out. Want to buy it for me? So, yeah. So I'm good because apparently I'm getting gifts. That's how my day's going.
Whoa. Wow. Well, that's quite the life. Jeez, I gotta
get that. Rightly so.
Let's see. Gary K asked in the chat if My Little Scythe introduces skills for Scythe.
I haven't played it. Have you?
I have not.
I've been told it's different, But you know what? I don't even want to guess. I'm so sorry. It's not one that I've played. Scythe was not a game for me, so I didn't want to play My Little Scythe, but apparently I've been told that I would like it because it's not the same. So that answers your question in no way, shape, or form. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, sorry that we couldn't help you out on that one. I saw a question here.
There's a question
Daniel,
I have as well. Go ahead.
Oh, go. No, go.
So I have Mad Bana on Twitch, and they're asking about Clank. So they're wondering, never played Clank, wondering if Legacy version would be good, maybe to start with. Honestly, sure. I had a friend who played the original Clank, didn't like it at all, really. She's like, it was okay. And then we played Legacy. She's like, I love it. I don't know if it's because of the decisions and the way the board kind of unfolded, but she actually said I would have just gone straight to Clank Legacy. It fixed some of the problems she had with Clank. So I don't know if that helps at all, but definitely if you're looking at it, I highly recommend it. I quite enjoyed it, and I don't play a lot of Legacy games.
Yeah, I would. I think jumping into Clank if you've never played Clank. I think jumping into Clank Legacy if you've never played Clank is totally fine.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I thought I saw a question from Daniel Degato asking, what are good board games to play online? And
there's a lot.
Daniel, there's
friend.
I appreciate the spirit of your question. I really do. But there's so many.
I mean, I can give you a go-to one that I play, and it was mentioned today, but Russian Railroads, and I bring it up because that is one I actually play quite a bit on Yukata. So if you want something of that, but to be fair, I don't know how heavy of a game you want, because that is kind of bordering on the other side of it. But then we played Hats the other day on Tabletopia, and we really enjoyed that. So all that to say, there's a ton of good stuff, but those are a couple that we played that we were quite good.
Yeah, I think for me, there is just such a huge variety of board games available between like the purchasable app version or these online services like Board Game Arena. I think Board Game Arena, Yukata, and Bois de Jeu are the three services that I really like. And between those three, they just have such a wealth of games, whether you want to play Russian Railroads or Terra Mystica or King Domino or Carcassonne or Sushi Go, right? There's just a huge breadth of games, and they all play fairly well. I think really the biggest difference is whether you want to play with strangers or friends. All these services allow you to set up private games so you play with just people you know who have accounts on the same services, or you can just jump into public games with strangers. And they all have like tippy tap type chat that you can do. But again, I always enjoy playing a private game with friends online, and then we open up like a Discord or a Skype chat, and then we can talk in person. And that's how I personally really enjoy it. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we miss any other questions?
I think we're probably good.
I think we covered it. We want to make sure that we're answering because we don't want to keep you long because we know this is a longer stream than... What am I saying? Tom has streams for like 2 hours. I'm worried about time. Psst, please. Yeah. Like I had to think about that as I'm saying it. But I think we answered them. I kind of was trying to track them as we were talking. No, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we're good. All right. Well... Thank you, everybody, for joining us on our little experiment recording the podcast with you live here. Hopefully you enjoyed it on some level. Maybe we'll do it again. I don't know. Let us know if you are interested in having us record this way again, or not.
That's really good.
If it doesn't do anything for you, that's okay.
You know what?
Too.
Put it in the comments, and we'll take a look at it and determine it from that.
Oh, I'm terrified. Comments.
No, you know what? At the end of the day, if people don't want to see it, great. This is actually more work for me specifically to do, and you too. Yeah. So if people don't want us to do it, I'm okay with it. But I am happy to do it. I see a lot of familiar faces in the chat, or familiar names. Sorry,
handles.
Yeah. And I personally love our chat. Everyone in our chat, thank you so much. You're always amazing. So I'm happy to do it. So let us know, because if we don't hear from you, then we assume you don't want it. So we appreciate all the love.
All right, Mandy and I are working on our next Apptastic. I think hats, Mandy?
I think hats. We're going to do hats on Tabletopia,
right.
So you'll get an idea of how that plays out.
Yeah. Take care, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Stay home. Play games.
Stay home, yes.
Eat your snack food, okay?
All right, sounds good. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.